Let's check the latest news updates from Aparna Vats.
Namaskar. Welcome to Friends World TV English Bulletin from last week. She set an example. We need more women leaders like Sushma Swaraj. Excerpts from a piece written by Jaya Jetli. Article 370 miscarriage of history separated J&K from India, BJP. PM Narendra Modi wishes nation on Eid al-Adha, and autopsy of Epstein performed but details yet to be released. India-China ties should be a factor of stability in uncertain world. Queensland farmer and mum of 3 attempts world's longest solo obstacle course. Billions going into defence for new weapons and armour for special forces soldiers. India versus West Indies second ODI. Virat Kohli's record-breaking 100 gives India 1-0 lead. The news in detail. Ever since the country heard the sad news of Sushma Swaraj's sudden passing, the highest words of praises have been heard repeatedly. Dedicated politician, effective parliamentarian, excellent orator, competent administrator, compassionate foreign minister, a caring sister, a friend, a good wife and mother. There is almost nothing more to add as we take in the enormity of the national loss and move on with a heavy heart. It strikes me that there is an important lesson for both men and women who aspire to achieve something good out of politics. To learn from all these generous adjectives, Sushma's political trajectory teaches us that a woman primarily needs confidence in herself and hard work to hone her abilities to serve the public good. While it helps to be a good orator, a party worker must keep the party's welfare above herself. A competent person can have many gifts, but it takes special dedication and commitment to learn Kannada in a month to communicate more effectively when fighting an ideologically and politically crucial election against Sonia Gandhi in Bellary. The contrast between an Italian-born reading written speeches which betrayed a lack of familiarity with the language of an Indian demonstrating the ability in learning a new Indian language in a month was striking. It requires dedication and a firm belief in the cause. All these aspects are qualities that are not exclusive to women. They must be part of any politician and particularly among aspirational women. The premise that women should be confined to kitchens and their role is limited to bringing up children is disapproved by Sushma Swaraj, who effectively demonstrated that women should not sacrifice one for the other, and men should not expect them to do so. Along with deep condolences to Sushma Swaraj's immediate family, one must salute Swaraj Kaushal, who did not compromise his work or his effectiveness in society to be a supportive and proud husband. The world must learn to accept that Sushma Swaraj has demonstrated capable and sincere women in politics will only help with the task of addressing public needs, enable better governance, inject dignity and grace in the political discourse where male aggression is almost the norm, and through compassion show people in difficulty that they are not alone. Opening the argument for the government, senior BJP leader Bhupendra Yadav called it a historic day. What you could not do in 70 years, our Home Minister has brought that topic to this House, he said. He said in the past too, significant constitutional amendments were brought in without being taken to the Business Advisory Committee of the House. Today, when we have brought a resolution for the progress of J&K to take the state forward for the integrity and unity of India, the work of opposing it is being done by only the Congress, he said. Now that the expectations of the people of J&K have been raised, it is our responsibility to fulfill those expectations, he said. He also said the development of Kashmir is the duty of every Indian, and development requires a necessary administrative structure. Jitendra Singh, Minister of State in the Prime Minister's office, called it a day of redemption, rejuvenation and resurgence. Article 370, he said, was a miscarriage of history and one of the gravest blunders of post-independent India. He said it was time for repentance. Union Minister for Information and Broadcasting Prakash Javadekar said reservations for various sections, RTI Act and Right to Education were not applicable in JK due to political reasons. He said Article 370 was called a transient provision and led to alienation. How much more time is needed? He said, because of Article 370, J&K was separated from the country. Also speaking for the government, nominated member Swapan Das Gupta said it was a very proud day because in future we will not have bills which would have the clause which says this will not be applicable to the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Only the other day in this house we passed the Triple Talaq bill. That was a very important bill because it was a major step towards getting rid of what can be called a differentiated citizenship. Today, we have taken the other step. We have made all citizens of this country equal. My best wishes on the occasion of Eid al-Adha. I hope it furthers the spirit of peace and happiness in our society. Eid Mubarak, Modi tweeted. Prime Minister Narendra Modi wished the nation on the occasion of Eid al-Adha on Monday. Greeting people on Bakrid, PM Modi hoped that the festival will further the spirit of peace and happiness in the society. My best wishes on the occasion of Eid al-Adha. I hope it furthers the spirit of peace and happiness in our society. Eid Mubarak, Modi tweeted. Eid al-Adha, also called the Festival of Sacrifice, is being celebrated on Monday, also known as Bakrid. The festival commemorates the readiness of Abraham to sacrifice his son in order to prove his obedience to Allah. The festival is celebrated by the Muslim community around the world, where men, women and children step out in all their finery. Now from New York, the details of how Jeffrey Epstein died in his Manhattan jail cell over the weekend have yet to be released. But medical officials have performed an autopsy on the high-profile inmate accused of sexually abusing underage girls and paying them hundreds of dollars in cash for massages. Epstein's abrupt death Saturday cut short a criminal prosecution that could have pulled back the curtain on the inner workings of a high-flying financier with connections to celebrities and presidents, though prosecutors have vowed to continue investigating. The manner in which he died remains a mystery, but guards on Epstein's unit were working extreme overtime shifts to make up for staffing shortages the morning of his apparent suicide. Epstein had been placed on suicide watch after he was found a little over 2 weeks ago with bruising on his neck, according to the person familiar with the matter. But he was taken off the watch at the end of July and therefore wasn't on it at the time of his death, the person said. Epstein's removal from suicide watch would have been approved by both the warden of the jail and the facility's chief psychologist, said Jack Donson, a former prison official who worked for the Bureau of Prisons for more than 2 decades. Last week, more than 2,000 pages of documents were released related to a since-settled lawsuit against Epstein's ex-girlfriend by Virginia Giuffre, one of Epstein's accusers. The records contains graphic allegations against Epstein, as well as the transcript of a 2016 deposition of Epstein in which he repeatedly refused to answer questions to avoid incriminating himself. Epstein's July 6 arrest drew national attention, particularly focusing on a deal that allowed him to plead guilty in 2008 to soliciting a minor for prostitution in Florida and avoid more serious federal charges. His lawyers maintained that the new charges in New York were covered by the 2008 plea deal and that Epstein hadn't had any illicit contact with underage girls since serving his 13-month sentence in Florida. The federal investigation into the allegations remain ongoing. U.S. Attorney Geoffrey Berman said he noted in a statement Saturday that the indictment against Epstein includes a conspiracy charge, suggesting others could face charges in the case. Jaishankar, whose visit comes in the aftermath of India's decision to bifurcate Jammu and Kashmir, to which China has raised objections, met his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi in Beijing today. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, who is on a 3-day visit to China on Monday, said that India-China relations should be a factor of stability at a time when the world is facing an uncertain situation. Jaishankar, whose visit comes in the aftermath of India's decision to bifurcate Jammu and Kashmir, in his opening remarks during the meeting with Wang, considered a confidant of President Xi Jinping, Jaishankar said, "We reached a consensus in Astana 2 years ago that at a time when the world is more uncertain, our relationship should be a factor of stability." And I am very pleased today to come in the aftermath of the Wuhan summit, where the consensus between our leaders on global and regional issues has expanded, he said, referring to the summit meeting between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Chinese President Xi. During his 3-day visit, Jaishankar will hold talks with the Chinese leadership on a host of issues, including finalization of arrangements for President Xi's visit to India later this year for the second informal summit with Prime Minister Modi. His visit was planned before India decided to bifurcate Jammu and Kashmir into 2 union territories, Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. A southeast Queensland farmer has completed what might be the world's longest solo obstacle course, stopping along the way to breastfeed her youngest child in a bid to raise money for drought-affected farmers. In 9 days, 22 hours and 18 minutes, Jessica Errich, 35, ran 500 kilometers and completed 1,000 obstacles. While it could take weeks to be signed off by officials, the circuit is expected to be the longest on record for a female competitor. She says, "My body felt stronger by day 4, but by about the last 50 kilometers, it was like my mind didn't want to do it anymore. Trying to talk myself out of it, all the self-doubt starts to creep in, and that's hard," she said. The course was set up at Aylesford, about 2 hours west of Bundaberg, by Dave Holloran, who completed the male version of the course last year. Each lap involved 30 obstacles, including creek crossings, running steep inclines, tunnels, carrying weights and dragging tires through the bush. Mrs. Ehrlich said, "By the final days, the worst obstacles involved water. I would have to crawl on my hands and knees through icy cold water and then run another couple of kilometers before I walked through mud and plunged into an icy cold creek and swam 70 meters, she said. As a cattle and garlic farmer, Mrs. Ehrlich used the opportunity to raise funds for Drought Angels, a charity that provides personalized support for families and farmers doing it tough. So far, more than $3,000 have been raised for the charity, with the North Burnett community also getting behind the fundraising. Co-founder of the Australian Book of Records, John Taylor, said officials were still waiting on the paperwork and video footage of the record attempt to be submitted before it could be approved. "The wording of the record she's gone for. She may be the first person to do it," he said. Australia's Special Forces will sport new weapons and body armour as part of a $3 billion spend on new equipment and training over the next 20 years. New weapons, body armour and parachuting equipment will be coming for Special Forces soldiers. The opposition welcomed the investment in the Australian Defence Force. The government says it is the greatest peacetime investment in the Defence Force. Standing alongside military equipment, Prime Minister Scott Morrison said the Australia's elite soldiers needed to be safe in battlefields so they could keep Australians safe. "This is about ensuring our special forces are on the leading edge of capability," he said. "The threats are always there and the challenges are always there, and we must always be prepared to face them, not just now but for the next 20 years. The first stage of the program, dubbed Project Griffin, includes $500 million in the next 4 years to boost equipment spending on Australia's 8 Special Forces units. The money will fund equipment including weapons, body armour, parachuting and climbing systems, along with high-performance training during the next 4 years. The government expects to spend 2% of the gross domestic product on defence by 2020-21. Labour welcomes greater investment in the Australian Defence Force and its personnel and looks forward to seeing further detail of this announcement, the opposition said in a statement. The new equipment funding comes as Mr. Morrison and his defence chiefs consider joining the United States and Britain in the Persian Gulf. The US has requested Australia join its effort to protect oil shipments against Iranian interference in the Strait of Hormuz. The US has been trying to convince allies to join an international coalition to protect shipping routes in the strategic passageway following Iran's seizure of a British-flagged oil tanker. Now for sport. India versus West Indies second ODI result. India beat West Indies comfortably by 59 runs to win the second one-day international in Port of Spain on Monday. Indian captain Virat Kohli led from the front with a record-breaking 42nd 100 to help his side set a target of 280. However, the target was revised to 217 in 46 overs after rain interrupted play in the second half. But a disciplined bowling performance by India saw the Windies once again fail to capitalize on a set platform and lose the game by 59 runs. Namaskar, more next week.